Alright. Where we last left off. I'll take one of those. We were in the middle of the Wily Fortress, and this is where things particularly start to fall to shit. Wily 1 was, alright. Wily 2 was pretty fucking dubious. Had some pretty bad positions. Guess what? Mechanic is back! Oh, I'm gonna half-charge exploit this. Normally half-charges shouldn't deal 2 damage, and that's what happens. Also, who needs Primal Bomb, am I right? Am I right, lads? Haha. Got him. Anyway, that's kind of an interesting screen, even if you don't have a lot of time to see what's going on. That's the problem with... And then this, you really have no control over the brightness, so you just gotta break out Illusion Blast if you don't want to get hit, because you cannot control your jump height, and trying to aim at these with the Buster is pretty much a lost cause, especially since they come from the ground, and they can also hit you during a transition. You can test the stage for yourself if you don't believe me. Do I look like I'm capping about this game? That cannon is doing nothing, and it shoots off screen. This part's interesting. You can't really control your jump height, so you just gotta time it, and it's kind of weird how it slows down and speeds up. This part, yet again, the problem with frickin' primal roller coaster rail sections is that there are so many things going on at once that I can't really stop and critique it all. But case in point, there's yet another thing that you might want to clamp ring, because there is no human way you can possibly avoid that in time. Also, you can jump during that animation. It's okay, I didn't lose any lives from that, but it's a stupid thing you can do. If it's intentional, it doesn't feel intentional. Like, if that was a glitch, what kind of glitch is it? What kind of reference is it supposed to be? If you say a glitch is intentional, that just means you're lazy enough to leave it in. Otherwise, you are making a specific reference to a specific game that had a very specific glitch, and you are trying to replicate that for it to feel genuine and justified. That, my friends, if you know what that freaking glitch is from in the official games, please fucking tell me. Because I've hyper-analyzed the engines of the NES games, and oh yeah. Also, this part, the way this mini-boss starts up is pretty effed up, if you didn't already guess. Mecha Dragon's back. Mecha Dragon Alpha, as it's known. That startup is atrocious. How the fight kind of plays out is clunky at best. So you kinda gotta sort of... Yeah, I'd make all of that, like, flat ground, because the way the scroller starts, you kind of gotta hop to the middle one and then just... Oh yeah. Anyway, he's a bit sporadic. Knockback means that if you fall off a platform, you're basically screwed, despite the abundance of them. You're gonna... This is a place where you might lose a lot of lives. So it really doesn't feel balanced at all, the way it's executed, especially with the awkward jumps, the way it scrolls, the sporadicness of the fight itself. Obviously the spikes are Mega Man 1 style, so there's that, as aforementioned. And to top it all off, the weakness is the weapon that spreads bullets all over the place. Yeah, I might game over on this stage, not gonna lie, and it's all because I sunk a bunch of lives into this mini-boss fight. So, yeah, that's balance right there. That's a balance. This is a balanced, this is a regular, yeah, this is kind of where it falls. This is this is where the game starts to fall to shit. It gets worse. Don't worry. We're not there yet. We're not just there yet. And there you go, and some of the falling bits can still fucking kill you. So there's that. I'll be right back for one moment. I have to take a recording break. Alright. Anyway, now for the second half of the stage, and it's not a drastic improvement from the first. Interesting Hammer Joe placement, not terrible. I mean, what can you say that there are Joes in every other screen of this game? That was a hyperbole page. Yeah. Let's see. Guess Illusion Blast. Again, the shield attackers move too fast for going around them to feel like a viable, reasonable thing you can do. It's just kind of awkward. Oh yeah, remember the Garyobies from 4 that appeared in Clampman stage? Well, normally with spine archetypes, you know, they're supposed to be destructible to at least some combination of weapons. It's been a trend since Mega Man 6 to make them only destructible to 1 or 2 weapons, which I really don't fucking agree with. I think most of the weapons should be able to do the job. Well, here, none of the weapons are able to successfully kill them. Again, reflective surfaces don't seem to always, well, I think, yeah, no, I'm thinking of Mega Man 5. Now, reflective surfaces in this game don't have exceptions to weapons, so yeah. The only thing that can at least stop them is clampering, which is nice, except the only Robot Master stage they appear in. Want to take a freaking guess? You want to remember where the Garyobies came from? Yeah, that's right. That's right, bitch. Go fuck yourself. There was again, very little forethought put into the weapons and how they may potentially balance with the stages in question, except for maybe Illusion Blast, and because it's useful in Primal Man stage as it should, and I guess Frigid's destructible ice blocks with Scorch Flame, but that's like an obligatory Blizzard Man. You just copy-pasted Blizzard Man. Like, you can die there. Yep. Good start. We're off to a good start. And here, remember how I said count bombs are kind of hard to fuck up? Yeah, remember how I said that? Eternal kind of proved me wrong because head jumps. I love head jumps. Head jumps are my favorite kind of jump. You know head jumps? They're the kind of jump where there's like a low ceiling and you can't. You have to run at just the right angle if you want to. Yeah, and again, you could argue, okay, with the weapon planning and the head jumping and this isn't, and the glitches. Well, it's not trying to be Mega Man. Well, then what? What is it trying to be? If it's not trying to be Mega Man, what justifies this? You know, references at least, you know, justify things and make it so that, okay, well, you did the work in researching how something should operate, or at the very least, you know, research into other platformers to see what makes other platformers work. This is, but fundamentally speaking, a platformer shooter still. You jump, you shoot, and there are platforms, so these aren't regular things that would show up in other platformer shooters. Good ones, anyway. Head jumps, I mean, stuff like that. Artificial difficulty, there we go. Let us try this again. Okay. Gonna need to break out Scorch Flames. Sometimes the contact works and sometimes it doesn't. You have to... Remember, you have to ignite it and then fire it off, so that makes it incredibly tricky to master. Thankfully here there isn't a goddamn time limit. Still rather frustrating, but maybe that is just my subjective opinion. You could... The concept and setups are vaguely interesting, but the execution is not there. As aforementioned, the physics are one of this game's major problems, and having a very clunky jump like this with awkward collision... Well, you've seen how the collision sometimes operates. These tight, narrow platforms, well, the end result, no matter which way you position the blocks, can often end up being a botched job. And in addition to that, the count bombs, remember how things don't scroll back in this game? Well, that also applies to count bombs. You cannot reset rooms. Once you screw up on a count bomb stretch, you have to kill yourself. In the game, I mean. In order for them to come back. Which is really, really, like, what aspect of platforming makes that good? What aspect of game design makes that good? In a game with Mega Man style side-scrolling like this and isolated screens and a lives system, you know, there is a reason certain, you know, there is a reason things scroll back. You can easily code NES entities to not do that. That's not a limitation of the system. That's how Mega Man operates. On the bright side, we have come across roughly the final stretch of the level, with a couple lives to spare. So really, it just ends when we... Yep. Oh, and you can just graze the side of it to activate it. I forgot about that. So many things about this damn game. Oh yeah, the power-ups being different sprites, they look very bizarre. I don't understand why the sprites are changed to look like that. It does justify them giving a slightly higher amount of HP and energy, weapon energy, from what I can recall. I believe they give slightly more than usual. Which, I mean, good on the game. Ah, shit. Oh yeah, another thing that, you know, makes this section bad is, you know, the fact that, well, Scorch Flame ignites the player, making it hard to see where their hitbox is when they land on platforms. That's like a basic thing. You kinda gotta eyeball it and practice with Scorch Flame in advance if you want to master the section. Which is, again, not good game design by any caliber. On the plus side, at least we have some of our weapon energy back. Maybe for this specific enemy, it's not a terrible thing that they don't come back after a transition, but for other enemies, it's not the case. Doesn't feel intentional. I believe Paige in his playthrough mentioned that the health power-up is a trap. I don't see how. I butchered that by standing on the penultimate count bomb, by jumping off the penultimate count bomb too soon and then trying to leap back on it, which was something I shouldn't have done. And even though the count bombs do not come back, it is not a trap because, of course, you can just take the other path. and the other count bombs will still be there. So I don't know what he was referring to there, but it's not a trap. You just kind of got to think about it. Which, I mean, okay, it's not it's not a terrible power position by this game's standards. I mean, so I'm not sure specifically what he meant by trap. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention in the previous video. Nico mentioned in Wily 1 in his evaluation that one of the playtesters, sort of quit after starting to play Wily 1. The point he was trying to make was that that the level was difficult enough for it to be like a threshold barrier and no, I'm good. Obviously, the playtester in question was still on the team. He just wasn't doing playtesting. If I'm putting the pieces together correctly, the playtester was Jasper Valentine, who obviously did a couple of tracks for this game, specifically Joltman's theme, which sounds kind of derivative and Dive Man-esque, like overly so, but whatever, it's not terrible. And the credits theme, which it's not great either, but that's mostly due to Page's direction on what he wanted it to sound like, but I digress. His work on Eternal 2 is pretty ballin', though. He did the entirety of Eternal 2 soundtrack, so obviously he is still sticking around on the team. He just decided not to do playtesting, because Wily 1 was hard. And the point Nico was trying to make is that it's very telling of how hard the Wily stages are, and I agree. He was not trying to insinuate that, some dick left the team. At any rate, at least we have Clampering now to deal with that. Ow. Yeah, mixed feelings about the Snow Gyros. I think they shoot a little too fast for my tastes, but maybe that's just me. Again, they're not really like shooting in, well, they're not directly in your way either. I think that was on me for whatever. That jump is oddly tight, just due to the way the physics operate. But also, 3x2 jumps aren't inherently easy to make in any caliber. I think the highest you can make is a 3x3 in this game, in terms of leaps from one platform to another. In terms of, like, a 3-block gap wide, and then another platform that's 3 blocks above. You know what I mean. Anyway, we've finally reached the end. Hey, it's the Frigid Man Wily logo. Wait, why is it? Why is it in the foreground? What? Let me guess. There's like some kind of power up or something. Nope. Is there a power up? Because normally in like Wily 2s or Wily 3s, there's like some kind of hidden power behind the boss logo thing, and it's in the foreground for literally no reason. I don't know why that is. What the fuck? I don't know at this point. I really don't know. Why is there a gap there? Why is anything here? Why are the tiles arranged the way they are? Why is it hard to see what's in the foreground and the back? I don't know. And suddenly black. They're gone. The tiles are gone. And now, to meet our maker. He's back! It's ass! Base hath returned. You ever realize that since the background is moving downwards, the elevator is technically going upwards, meaning that the place that we dropped from should have passed by us by now, but it's not showing up. Any particular reason for that? Didn't need to be there. It could have just been, like, blank. Yeah, this fight's clunky. I've tried to learn it. If there is a dodgeable pattern, it's kind of hard to do so. It's kind of a slower version of, it's not, I personally don't consider it a particularly sophisticated, well, sophisticated in the sense that there are a bunch of moves, but there is no way to reliably dodge them. He can occasionally corner you. It's kind of a slower, less complicated version of Scorchman in that sense, from what I've been able to read of the pattern. So we're just gonna use the weakness on him. I'm sorry, base. I don't like to do this to Robot Masters, but if a fight's not masterable, it's not. I don't know. Your first encounter, I forgive you. Also the power-up of getting a base saber is obviously from this is a reference to this particular fight in which he has a saber for some reason. You want to talk about defying canonicity? He never had a saber. Also, you can see the sides of the wall, you know, come down to make the elevator slightly narrower halfway through the fight. So if you're on either edge of a screen, those can come down without any given signal, and you just instantly die, which of course is not good game design either. This fucking game. Well, we've come across the penultimate Wily stage. I think we have time to do it. You ever just realize that, like, the thing above the skull is kind of like a crown, and the skull on the fortress just has a really large forehead? Whatever. Yeah, at least we got a 1 for our troubles. Might want our 1-up reset after this anyway, but we shall see. We shall see. Usually, the theme doesn't, yeah, usually people come to the screen and just miss, like, they only hear the first 5 seconds. I think I forgot to mention this, but the soundtrack's a bit, stylistically, it's a bit all over the place because there are, you know, so many artists working on so many different songs. Some of them are specifically for the game, some of them aren't, obviously, the Kevin themes, and none of them really loop properly. Well, they don't loop seamlessly, I mean. Anyway, yeah, this is Wily 4. A segment from all the Mega Man games 1 through 10. Yeah, and the guts lifts are solid blocks, meaning you can headbutt on the edge of them. These layouts are not slightly different from the originals, they are basically almost copy-pasted, like map screenshots of the original stages. There is one exception, but I'll point that one out. And yeah, just enemies kind of placed randomly, I mean, with a Stamperai, or Klingstoms as they're called in the game. It's not terrible, but I mean, yeah, remember, well, I could still probably reach that, yeah, nope, I guess not. I don't even need that energy anymore because energy resets after Wily stage is completed. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of taking away all the soul out of the original stage. This doesn't really... I mean, Gutsman stage was pretty rough and rudimentary and, well, short. But it did have some moments. It did have some nuance to it. Well, maybe just the beginning stretch. So I guess this doesn't ruin it, even though the guts lifts are solid. Although, actually, you can just kill these from a distance, so it's kind of like what's really been accomplished. I don't know. Then we come across Heatman. Obviously, if you remember, I did some of the tiles for frickin' 2 revamped Heatman. So, of course, I know my shit, and I can see, you know, where tiles have been added. You see the slightly different orange here? Like the slightly different shade of red. Oh god, it sears my eyes. The lava is also inaccurate too. You know, it loops 1 by 1 instead of 1 by 2. It just, I, I guess this attempts to improve the opening stretch by adding extra platforms. But like I said, the tellies are already fucked. This improves nothing. And, of course, the Jiro Hopsky at the beginning, obviously the missile even more easily carries through a transition, and you can just skip it. And you can still see all the botched tiles that were added. And you can see the shadow where the platforms used to be. You can see some of the botched background here, and why is there a boss gate on the floor? I don't know. You can see, like, this brick, and then the brick below the teleporter, and then these bricks are a different shade of brick than that brick, and it hurts my eyes. So obviously the boss the refights work ZX style, where it's a pair of Robot Masters and then a section of a stage, and then a pair of Robot Masters and then a section of a stage. I believe, well, in ZX's case, the pair of Robot Masters, well, I guess pseudoroids in that case, were of the same element, and it was in a specific order, but here it's all random. I think, well, if one robot master is guaranteed to be paired with a specific one, but I mean, like, the actual, like, pairs themselves are random. I guess this is a good opportunity to reflect upon the boss patterns, and whether they are good or bad. Maybe give them a rating Nico style. Illusion Man. I want to say a 3 out of 10. Again, nothing is dodgeable, nothing is intended to be dodgeable if he corners you. There's no intent behind, oh, you gotta lure him over here, or, you know, that's kind of what makes an intelligent fight to me. If, like, you're able to sort of kite a boss and outsmart the boss while it's still being challenging and a bit, like, complicated, not complicated to dodge, but never mind. I could go into elaborate detail on what makes a good boss fight, but that was just a bunch of, you know, moves being delivered rapid fire. I guess I'll do Clamps Buster only because it's okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can clip into the sides of the wall. I remember that. As you can see, he has 2 different moves where he charges, one in which he just charges once, and then one where he goes back and forth, in which you want to, you know, that's probably the major criticism of the fight. The falling shit in the way does fall in a regular, predictable pattern, so aligning yourself isn't terrible. Getting out of the clamp isn't terrible either. Some parts of the fight can be avoided, and the fact that he takes an extra amount of time in the air before dropping prevents you from being cornered, so he is, advertently or not, a good boss fight, for the most part. Other than his own contradiction of rules with, you know, using the same sprite for 2 different moves, which is annoying, and prevents that aspect of the fight from being avoidable. I don't know. He's just okay. I'll give him like a 5. I'll be generous. Game Boy 2 remixed. The title theme, or the Wily stage, whichever you prefer. Yeah. Well, Needle's map is obviously completely off-center from the actual boss room thing going on. Yeah. Let's see if this improves upon Needleman's original stage in any way. Nope, it's just enemies being placed randomly. I do kind of like this one, but it only shows up, like, twice. Including this time. Yay, more Punk Joes, my favorite. They're thematically fitting, but What gameplay aspect did they add? And why is this one here? What purpose does it serve? This lower section with the power-up is now blocked off. This entire level completely obfuscates the intent behind, how the stages were arranged and why, and what enemies were chosen, and what kind of challenge was being made. And instead of improving upon it, this game decides to just slap a bunch of enemies all over the place, and completely miss the point of why anything exists at all in the first place. This stage is, in my opinion, probably the worst next to Cypher, for this reason. Yeah, no power-ups down there. It's just a vague aesthetic imitation of what the stage was originally comprised of. Why were the plus... I think I sunk 2 shots into that, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 shots for the balloon met enemy. Imagine trying to kill that in an auto-scroller, or in the Primal Man sections. You physically cannot. Not in the amount of time. You do have to clamp ring it. That's pretty damn bad. And again, the Met Helmet Plus has been removed from the tile set. Why? Why has it been removed? That was supposed to be foreshadowing. It was supposed to be foreshadowing for the Doc Needle stage in which giant Mets rise from the tile set and become a mini-boss fight. This was foreshadowing, and it's gone now. There are no giant Mets in this game, for better or worse. Everything about this is worse than the original. Why make this stage at all? I don't know. I'm usually not this emotional or, overworked, but, yeah. This section is okay. It's original, for one. Going back to that, sort of claw enemy that showed up twice, I forgot to mention another enemy in Scorchman's stage, this sort of Poddle, I guess, that only showed up once, a dinosaur that shot a bunch of Chankies all over the place. Yeah, that enemy was kind of useless too, and it only showed up once. It could have been useful, it could have been used in like some platforming sections maybe below, in which it could have lobbed a bunch of Chankies in a more controlled manner, to create a unique challenge, or maybe above the player and have the Chankies arc downward. There could have been so many possibilities, but that enemy, again, only showed up once. So, yeah. I do kind of like the sort of rifts, the sort of like, you can see the sort of rifts in the background where sort of like holographic projections are forming. Dust stage was especially so. With Gutsman stage, that was pretty short and didn't have a lot going for it, so you could say, okay, well, this version of the stage didn't really ruin it and maybe made it slightly better. With Heatman, you could say, well, that was an empty, sort of dull level anyway, and the Yoku sections obviously sucked in the original, so yeah, you could argue this stage improved upon it a little with the fire gyros at the end, I guess, question mark. And for Needle, by the time you get to Needle, there's not really an excuse, because that stage was actually good, and that specific stretch, the opening stretch and the part after it, was pretty damn good. With the way Mets were originally positioned and stuff, and combined with the Yambos, there's something beautiful about it, and it just also suffered from being really short. But here, by the time you get to Dust, it's definitely like, you have destructible platforms, destructible blocks. Why is this section made the way it is? The layout is copy-pasted, except for the fact that these blocks are now in place of the original destructible ones, and you might not be able to see it, but there is a slightly blacker box here, and then the rest of the tiles that has a slightly lighter shade of black. I'm not sure if it's visible here. But, I'm not sure if it's going to be visible on on the recording screen, but it's certainly visible if you play this stage and look closely. There's a giant... Whatever. Let's get to the Robot Masters, shall we? Toon Woman! This teleporter's in the foreground. Not really a fan of how the spotlights don't also hide the sound waves. I guess sound doesn't emit light, obviously. Sound waves aren't visible, except there are sprites for them, and it would at least make sense gameplay-wise. Again, not everything has to be accurate to real life, as long as it makes sort of gameplay-related sense, and well, it's just a minor annoyance. But the fight itself is kind of tight, and these are really the only two moves, well, that you need to avoid. You know, dodge the sound waves, dodge Toon Woman, and then wait for her to show up again, and rinse and repeat. That's kind of the pattern. It's more readable than most of the. Also, again, you can accidentally teleport out. Even if like the health bar is still refilling, you can teleport out before it's finished filling the health, and there's that aspect. So yeah, I really don't know what to rate that. Also a 5. It's kind of easy, but at least you can dodge most of it, and it doesn't offend me personally. Frigid! Hey buddy, how's it going? Okay, I'll buster you too. One of the better fights. Just because you can dodge things, it doesn't really signal what he's going to do either, but the things that he does pull off, you're mostly able to avoid because you generally have a lot of space to do so. He is slow enough that you can anticipate what he is going to do. Yeah. Even if he doesn't have a bunch of control over... Oh. He also has some readability in his sprite when he performs a move, which is nice. He does angle his cannon up when he's about to shoot a Frigid Frost up. Am I going to do this no damage? Yo! Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking like a 6.5 to a 7. Maybe an 8 if I want to be generous. I don't know. His weakness... I don't know. But, the actual fight, the actual pattern, not bad. Again, the Crystal Man map is off-center from the wall, but whatever. Even the original Crystal Man stage was a bit more interesting than most of 5's other stages, because it had some original enemies, well, some enemies privy to that stage. Even if it was a bunch of short sections of unexplored concepts over and over. I don't get why the fridge is attached to the ceiling either. Don't ask, I don't know. But even then, this opening stretch was pretty solid. Because, you know, the Puka Puckers were a relatively interesting enemy. Even if they were a bit of a crazy-razy ripoff, they did enough new that... And even the charge shot didn't feel horribly broken. This part of the stage is actually probably the best to me, because it does, in some way, improve upon the original Crystal Dropper stretch. These drop in intervals of 4 now, so even though it's different from the original, it's a justifiable enough change to where you could say, hey, that's an improvement. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Oh, hey, Captain Joe. I cannot say the same for Plant Man stage. Again, we come to this mini-boss. Not terrible. Probably not the worst place to put it either, I guess, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of thematic sense. Now we come across the ending stretch of Plant Man, which was very genius. The original stage was very genius in its own right, because this ending stretch actually had a sort of palette change, where this palette would switch over, and then it would just be 3 palettes on screen at once, and then it would switch that palette over to the pink used for the flowers, which was genius. So then, bam! Palette change. But here, as aforementioned, the springs aren't... You cannot control your jump height with the springs. The plant platforms can't even be activated. I don't think that would be overly difficult to do. The flowers have fake power-ups, and none of the enemies really fit, or it's just a gutted shell of the original plant stage, which actually managed to combine 3 different enemies plus the springs plus the plant platforms in a nuanced, interesting manner, along with the crazy palette switching. It was a pretty genius opening stretch and well, ending stretch, I mean. And this completely butchers it. Yeah, at least I beat gets to shine. He's reasonably balanced in this game in that, well, you can't charge shoot while he's active. It doesn't drain energy, but he constantly has to retreat back to Mega Man every time he lands a shot, because he's technically just embedding a lemon into enemies, so he has to kind of reload, I guess. It's funny to think about. And that does encourage you to get closer to enemies so that he'll retreat faster, even if it comes at the cost of if you get too close, then you won't home in at all, which makes absolutely no sense. As for Plant Stage, completely fucking ruined. It's a travesty. Cypher Man! Hello, buddy! If there's one other good thing about Cypher Man that I forgot to show you, it's his fucking weakness. It would have been cool if you're able, because it's the piercing weapon, if you were able to pierce through his shield and deal damage that way. Oh my god, I completely used it up. It does deal adequate damage when the shield's down. Okay, never mind. The weakness does suck in that regard. I've almost wasted it. Whoops. It's okay, I can do it Buster only. It's no big deal. Yeah, you can't read when he's gonna do... Yep, see, there's no signal to when he's gonna cipher decode. It is kinda nice that he delivers his attacks slightly more slowly when his barrier is up. I think it would have been cooler if you got the cipher barrier as his frickin' weapon, which is what I did in the Mega Maker version of his stage. Because then you have an I mean, I guess you don't need a shield weapon for, for a weapon arsenal to work, but I think it would have helped in this game, especially, since shields were planned anyway for the Mega data. Jolt! Maybe like a 4.5, you can dodge some of his moves, but it still feels awkward and sporadic. Even Spring had some nuance to it, which is kind of just gutted here, but this isn't the worst combination in the world. It is a nice panic stretch, I guess. And then suddenly it's all over. Yeah, suddenly it just instantly switches to, this is supposed to be Grenade Man stage, but I originally thought, also the J-Telly is not homing in. Like, it's moving very slowly, and I don't understand why. But originally, I thought this was supposed to be Aquaman's stretch, because both have count bombs, but only Aquaman uses them in a downward stretch. So this isn't really trying to replicate anything specific from Grenade Man. It's just green and has count bombs. That's barely a section, I guess. Even though everything else was animated, nothing from here is animated. There's a black box in the bottom right of the where the pits are, and it makes no sense as to why nothing is animated here. And and as you might expect, no, the teleporters don't work like they do in the original at all. And obviously they're positioned differently too. There was originally some nuance to this stage where you were able to, you know, jump to the sort of center teleporter and skip the first one as a speedrun bonus. But here, because of how the jump works, I don't believe you can, although I don't have Rush to check in this game. Yeah, and that is just that one screen, and it's been butchered. And then Solar Man. Oh, poor Solar Man. It's just the ending screen of Solar Man, I think, with the missiles and the Sola Zero, yeah. Except here, they're just 2 Joes and a couple of flamethrowers, and that's it. The ending stretch of Solar Man, well, this little horizontal bit was probably the weakest part. It really didn't need to be there. It could have just ended at the crazy conveyor Chanky dispenser part, and that would have made the stage. That would have been the cherry on top. It ended kind of weak. Whatever, the rest of the stage was good, and this does not do it justice either. It did justice to Crystal Man, I guess, with the crystal droppers. That was about it. We come across the last stretch of Robot Masters by process of elimination. We have Primal and Scorch left. Oh boy. Scorch or Primal? Scorch. Fantastic. Scorch! Oh yeah, I forgot to rate... Does Cypher Grand even deserve a rating? I don't think so. This gets like a 1.5. I think. Get out of here. Primal! I forgive a lot of his moves. I'm gonna give him like a 4. Because some of them, once you know they're... Like, yeah, some of them can be avoided. It's just when he transitions from one move to the next, it's hard to predict what he's gonna do after that. And it becomes unavoidable damage. What? But the individual moves themselves can, for the most part, be avoided, as you are seeing here. Whoa. Watch it, buddy. Whoops. He didn't do his air attack at all. That's a bit strange. But, yeah. 4. And then we have a stretch of nothing, I guess. And then another stretch of nothing. Okay, that was meaningful. I actually needed that, thank you, Eddie. At least Eddie's in this game. Despite all my bitching this entire episode, Rush Wily Machine is absolutely, positively not bad. I mean that. Everything's well telegraphed. It's slow enough to react to everything. He has a signal for when he shoots... Oh, I guess not. Well, you still have time to avoid when he will shoot giant energy balls at you. Case in point. So, the strategy is obviously to defeat the Robot Master holographs, and in order to open the machine and break the capsule that holds Rush. Oops. That one was on me for not paying attention to the fact that he was clearly pausing. Ow. I guess sometimes that can happen. Ow. Obviously, the boss theme is a remix of the Wily stages from Mega Man 5. I guess relevant enough of a reference. This does basically just copy-paste the plot of Mega Man 5 to me, except Rush is kidnapped instead of Dr. Light. And no one's being framed. I guess it's more similar to Doki Doki Amusement. Not similar plot, just someone's captured, go get him at the end. Megadata obviously was going to be a thing, but it never became a thing, so whatever. And that does it for this episode! Yeah! Wily Stages suddenly took a turn for the worse. But it's not over it's not over yet. We still got one more stage and 1 or 2 more bosses ahead of us, so tune in next time for that. Oh man. This is Lava Man signing off.